Hello and welcome to HQ English Fluency, the podcast where we learn English and make money. I'm your host, Sunita. Today, we're exploring a crucial topic that affects everyone in the workplace: how to build positive relationships with competing colleagues. Before we dive in, let me remind our listeners that this podcast is designed to help you improve your English while learning valuable career skills. We'll be using simple language, and I'll explain any difficult words or phrases as we go along. Now, let me introduce our fantastic guests. First, we have Nabila, a human resources manager with over 10 years of experience in multinational companies. She's helped hundreds of employees navigate workplace relationships. Welcome, Nabila.
Thank you, Sunita. I'm thrilled to be here and share what I've learned over the years.
We're glad to have you. Our second guest is Robert, a successful team leader in a fast-growing tech company. He's known for fostering a collaborative environment even among competitive team members. Welcome, Robert.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be part of this discussion and share some practical tips.
Excellent. Let's start by clarifying what we mean by competing colleagues. These are coworkers who might be up for the same promotion, working on similar projects, or trying to impress the same boss. Essentially, it's any situation where you might feel in competition with your coworkers. Nabila, could you elaborate on why it's so important to maintain good relationships with these colleagues?
Absolutely, Sunita. It's crucial for several reasons. First and foremost, a positive work environment leads to better productivity. When people get along, even if they're competing, they're more likely to collaborate effectively. This means better results for everyone and for the company as a whole. Secondly, it significantly reduces stress. Constant tension with colleagues can be emotionally draining. Imagine going to work every day feeling like you're walking into a battlefield. That's not good for your mental health or your work performance.
Those are excellent points, Nabila. The idea of the business world being small is particularly interesting. Can you give an example of how this has played out in your experience?
Sure, I've seen it happen many times. For instance, there were 2 employees in my previous company who were always competing for the best projects. Despite their rivalry, they maintained a respectful relationship. Years later, one of them started her own company and ended up hiring the other as a top executive. Their ability to work together despite past competition became a huge asset for the new company.
That's a great example. Robert, what would you add to Nabila's points about the importance of these relationships?
I completely agree with everything Nabila said. I'd also like to emphasize that when you have good relationships, even with competitors, you create a network of support. This network can be invaluable for sharing knowledge, getting advice, or even finding new opportunities.
That's so true. It reminds me of the saying, "A rising tide lifts all boats." Now, let's get into some practical tips. Nabila, what's your first piece of advice for building these positive relationships?
My first tip is to focus on your own work and personal growth. When you're secure in your own abilities and constantly improving, you're less likely to view others as threats. This confidence makes it easier to be genuinely supportive of your colleagues.
That's excellent advice, Nabila. It sounds like the key is to compete with yourself rather than others. Robert, what would you suggest as a first step in building positive relationships with competing colleagues?
My top tip is to always look for opportunities to help your colleagues. If you see they're struggling with something you're good at, offer your assistance. This creates a positive impression and often leads to reciprocal help when you need it.
That's a great point, Robert. It reminds me of the concept of abundance mentality, the idea that there's enough success to go around. Nabila, what's another important factor in building these relationships?
Communication is key, Sunita. Be open, honest, and respectful in your interactions. If there's a misunderstanding or conflict, address it directly but politely. Don't let negative feelings fester. They can poison a work relationship.
That's an excellent example, Nabila. It shows how good communication can turn a potentially negative situation into a positive one. Robert, do you have any tips for effective communication with competing colleagues?
Absolutely. I find that active listening is incredibly important. Really pay attention to what your colleagues are saying, ask clarifying questions, and show that you value their input. This builds mutual respect and understanding. Let me break down what active listening looks like in practice. 1. Give your full attention. When your colleague is speaking, put away your phone and turn away from your computer. Make eye contact and use body language to show you're engaged. 2. Don't interrupt. Let them finish their thoughts before you respond. 3. Paraphrase what you've heard. This shows you've been listening and helps clarify any misunderstandings. You might say, "So, if I understand correctly, you're saying 4.
These are all fantastic points. We've covered a lot of ground already, but I know our listeners are eager to hear more. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll discuss more strategies and take some questions from our listeners. Stay tuned. Welcome back to HQ English Fluency. We're here with Nabila and Robert discussing how to build positive relationships with competing colleagues. Before we take listener questions, let's cover a few more strategies. Robert, what else can our listeners do to foster positive relationships in competitive work environments?
One thing I always try to do is celebrate my colleagues' successes. If they complete a big project or get recognition, congratulate them sincerely. This shows you're confident in your own abilities and that you're a supportive team player.
That's a great approach, Robert. It turns what could be a negative situation into a positive learning opportunity. Nabila, do you have any additional strategies to share?
Yes, I do. One crucial point is to avoid office gossip. Don't speak negatively about your colleagues behind their backs. It often gets back to them and can seriously damage relationships. Gossip might seem harmless or even a way to bond with other colleagues, but it's actually very destructive. It creates an atmosphere of mistrust and negativity. Plus, if you're known as someone who gossips, people will be less likely to trust you with important information or opportunities.
Those are both crucial tips. Now, let's take some questions from our listeners. Our first question is from Ahmed in Cairo. He asks, "What if my colleague is not friendly and doesn't want to work with me?"
That's a challenging situation, Ahmed. The key is to remain professional at all times. Continue to be polite and respectful in your interactions. Don't force a friendship, but always be open to collaboration when necessary. Sometimes leading by example can slowly change their attitude. Here are some specific steps you can take. 1. Maintain a positive attitude. Even if your colleague is unfriendly, always greet them politely and maintain a professional demeanor. 2. Focus on work. Keep your interactions focused on work-related matters. Be reliable, meet your deadlines, and produce quality work. 3. Seek to understand. Try to understand if there's a reason for their behavior. Are they under a lot of stress? Is there a cultural or communication barrier?
Those are excellent points, Nabila. I'd add that sometimes a direct but non-confrontational conversation can help. You might say something like, "I've noticed that our communication seems strained. Is there anything I've done to upset you, or is there a way we could work together more effectively?" This opens the door for honest communication and shows that you're proactive about improving the relationship.
Great advice from both of you. Our next question is from Maria in Brazil. She asks, "How can I stand out at work without making my colleagues feel bad?"
Excellent question, Maria. The key is to focus on elevating yourself without putting others down. Here are some strategies. 1. Excel in your role. Focus on doing your best work. Meet deadlines, come up with innovative ideas, and go above and beyond in your responsibilities. 2. Develop unique skills. Find areas where you can develop expertise that complements rather than competes with your colleagues' skills. This makes you stand out as an asset to the team. 3. Be a problem solver. Look for issues in your workplace and propose solutions. This shows initiative and leadership.
Those are great points, Robert. I'd add one more thing, Maria. Look for ways to use your strengths to help the entire team succeed. If you have a skill others don't, offer to teach them or lead a workshop. This positions you as a valuable team member and leader, not just a competitor. For example, if you're particularly good at data analysis, you could offer to lead a lunch and learn session on effective data visualization techniques. This showcases your skills while also helping your colleagues improve, which benefits the whole team.
Wonderful answers. We have time for one more question. This one is from Yuki in Japan. She asks, "What if I'm competing with my colleague for a promotion?"
Yuki, this is a common and often stressful situation. The most important thing is to maintain your professionalism throughout the process. Here's how you can handle this. 1. Focus on your own performance. Concentrate on highlighting your own achievements and qualifications rather than comparing yourself to your colleague. Document your successes and contributions to the company. 2. Continue to collaborate effectively. Don't let the competition affect your work. Continue to work well with your colleague on shared projects. This shows maturity and leadership potential. 3. Maintain integrity. Don't engage in any behaviors that could be seen as undermining your colleague. Stick to your principles and ethics.
Great advice, Nabila. I'd also suggest being transparent with your colleague about the situation if possible. You might say something like, "I know we're both up for this promotion. Regardless of the outcome, I value our working relationship and want us both to succeed." This openness can reduce tension and maintain a positive relationship. Also, consider talking to your manager about your career goals. Even if you don't get this particular promotion, expressing your ambitions can put you on the radar for future opportunities.
Thank you, Nabila and Robert, for sharing your invaluable insights today. We've covered a lot of ground in our discussion about building positive relationships with competing colleagues. Let's take a moment to recap the key takeaways for our listeners. 1. Focus on personal growth. Concentrate on improving your own skills and performance rather than worrying about others. 2. Help your colleagues. Look for opportunities to assist others, even competitors. This showcases your skills and team spirit. 3. Communicate effectively. Practice open, honest, and respectful communication. Use active listening to understand others better. 4. Celebrate successes. Genuinely congratulate colleagues on their achievements. This creates a positive atmosphere for everyone. 5. Avoid negativity. Stay away from office gossip and maintain professionalism, even in challenging situations. Remember, the goal isn't to win every competition or to be best friends with everyone at work. Instead, it's about creating an environment where you can thrive professionally while contributing to a positive, productive workplace for all. Thank you to our guests, Nabila and Robert, for sharing their expertise and practical advice. And a big thank you to all our listeners for tuning in to this episode of HQ English Fluency. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave a comment. We'd love to hear about your experiences and any tips you have for maintaining positive relationships with competing colleagues. For our English learners out there, we hope this episode has not only provided valuable career advice, but also helped you improve your language skills. Keep practicing, and remember our motto: learn English and make money. Thank you for listening to HQ English Fluency. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and keep building those positive relationships. This is Sunita, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.